Byron, continuing the conversation we were just having outside the studio, you said we are not an industry that deals well with a rapid change, and yet we find ourselves in an environment that is rapidly changing. How do we marry these two?
Well, I think that's the hard part, and indeed that is a skill. Go look at how Google have embedded that idea of experimentation and transformation into something like Google X Labs and so on. It's something I think we have to actually start to learn more as an industry. But we were regaling the concept. We've been talking about AV/IT convergence for 20 years, yet we're still talking about convergence by its nature. We should be more converged by now, and we're still calling it AV and IT as opposed to some reinvented term. So I think there's some breaking down of some silos that has to happen as well for us to start to recognize that there's a bigger thing at play, and we can't take too long now in this new reinvented world, in an AI-enabled world where transformation's happening in weeks and months, not years or decades as we've sometimes been used to in this
Yeah,
industry.
it's time for AV and AI convergence, and we're still hung up on IT. Um, I think it's so interesting that you said the word learn, right? Because it's like you learn to get into this silo when you come into AV. There is specialized knowledge, there is technical expertise that needs to be acquired, which does silo you. And it's almost at a certain point you've got to start learning to get back out of the silo into the broader picture. How do you think people can go about achieving that?
Well, look, that's a challenge, and it's one that I've spent the last number of months on. And I go back to my AI journey that started about 12 months ago, really not knowing where to start. And I still don't think we have good answers for that as an industry. That's a space that I'm kind of exploring at the moment. But simple steps, I guess. If we can create some efficiency in using AI in those very basic drudgery type things and free up 2 hours a week, are we turning around and reinvesting that 2 hours a week in just being more busy with the busy? Or are we actually saying, I need to reinvent myself and use that 2 hours of efficiency for learning, which is that cumulative effect over time that will allow us to stretch wider? What I've found is, I thought in my 30 years of this industry that I had a very strong broad network, but stopping and pausing and actually being able to go and explore and go find, as opposed to wait for that knowledge to come to you, is a refreshing premise and something that I think we need to learn to do. And so that's certainly perhaps a starting point. Go find that space to go explore outside of the industry and learn in this converging space, rather than wait for that to come to you.
Yeah. And last question from my side. You know the system loves a box, right? You can become this person who breaks these silos and has an expanded view of technology and the world. And then all of a sudden you get slapped with the label like chief strategy officer, chief experience officer, chief evangelical officer. In my opinion, it's a cyclical thing, right? Because eventually there's going to be a label on that and then you're going to have to break out of that. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I think those terms are important because they are trying to break silos. And even in this, what is it that we are truly enabling as an industry? Is it hanging black boxes on walls and so on? No, foundationally, it's always been about enabling that collaborative ecosystem. Now, as the office, for example, becomes the only reason you go to the office really is for that collaborative uh, innovation and exploration. We've been talking again about people, space, and technology alignment for 20 years. And yet, how has that really formed itself in our industry? I think there are indications finally that some of those silos are breaking. Look at what Microsoft's doing with Places. Look at what Logitech's just done introducing the Spot. Look at what's happened with QSC and Acuity and the acquisition. We're finally starting to see some places where that convergence is happening. And to me, that's the invitation and the confidence that we can have to say, yes, there is actually some momentum behind this. It's not just a vision without a practical path to do it. If you can find those first levels of confidence, then you can explore with some belief there's a foundational business model behind it, rather than just a pie in the sky proposition that sounds good but the market isn't ready for it. Microsoft alone has the potential to drag us into that people space technology alignment with Places that we know they did with Teams and other things
Yeah.
that as a fragmented industry we just couldn't do.
Byron, always a pleasure.
Likewise.